Hello, and welcome back to Nerd News. Today we have Black Adam set to lose $50 to $100 million at the box office, which is obviously not good. And Toejam and Earl is getting a movie? Maybe? We'll see. Let's get started. First up, we have Toejam and Earl set to get a movie, reportedly from the Game Awards here. Steph Curry is set to produce a Toejam and Earl movie for Amazon. And this was confirmed on the Toejam and Earl Twitter account that they are planning a Toejam and Earl movie. I don't know why. Toejam and Earl is not that good of a series. Like, the first Toejam and Earl game is really cool. The second one's not that great. I've never played the third one on the Xbox, and I know there's a more recent one that I've heard good things about, but I haven't had a chance to play. But of the two that I remember on the Sega Genesis, only the first one was really good, and even that was like more dumb fun. It wasn't particularly a great game. So I don't know why they're getting a movie, but I mean, if it's like an animated movie, I'll probably watch it. I'll give it a shot at the very least. I don't know about this one. This seems like a weird choice for a video game movie. And next up we have Gris getting a port to the PS5 and Xbox Series XS. This will be coming on December 13th, and I mean, this game's already pretty available. It's on the PlayStation 4, it's on the Switch. I know the physical copies were limited, but I believe it's pretty easy to get. At the very least, you can get it digitally. I don't know if the PS5 is going to be getting a physical copy, although I'm going to hope that a physical copy is announced if I haven't already missed the announcement of a physical copy. But this is a fantastic game. I did really, really like it. I played it on the Switch. I own it physically on the Switch, and absolutely love it. One of my favorite games of this generation, right up there with Celeste and Shantae and the Seven Sirens. As far as indie games go for this generation, really, really good. Love the art style. The watercolor look not only looks really good, but also ties really well into the game. It's not super long. I remember beating it in like, I want to say 4 or 5 hours, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe more, maybe less, but I don't remember it being it more than that. I think I beat it over a couple of nights just playing before I went to bed. And the music was absolutely fantastic in this. I really hope they re-release the soundtrack. I missed it the first time. I hadn't played the game at the time. I was waiting, and I missed the soundtrack, so I'm really hoping that the soundtrack is available at some point again. Really just a fantastic game. Definitely recommend picking it up. Again, digitally, it's available on the PS4 and the Switch, but it's going to be on the PS5 and the Xbox now as well. So, you should give it a shot. And next up we have Black Adam set to lose $50 to $100 million at the box office. And who could have possibly saw that coming? Why did they make a Black Adam movie? Like, I know The Rock pushed it, but like, why? They could have just made Black Adam the villain in a Shazam movie, or if you really want to make the Black Adam movie, you could have just made that movie and have Shazam be like a co-star, like a Batman v Superman type movie. Not Batman vs Superman, please don't do that again, but you know, that kind of movie where like neither one is really the good guy or the bad guy. If you really want to make Black Adam the anti-hero type character, at least then I think people would have cared a little bit, because Shazam was already a good movie. But no one knows who the hell Black Adam is. Like, if you don't read comics, and like even then, if you're not like kind of really in the comics, you probably don't know who Black Adam is. He's already kind of a niche within a niche, and that's not really good to spend apparently $600 million on a movie for. That's more than $500 million on this movie. So when you account for like advertising and stuff like that, and to actually make money, this movie basically had to be a $1 billion movie. Now obviously I'm rounding, and when you're rounding, you know, a couple $100 million, it's huge rounding, but it had to make $600 million just to break even. That's not a good sign for a movie. So if you have to make, you know, $700 million to really be considered anything, and even that I don't think would have been considered too much of a success, because that's only $100 million return on the investment. It's not, obviously it's a lot of money, but in terms of these massive blockbusters, that's probably still wouldn't have been good enough to be considered good. That probably would have just been like fine, like a wash. Honestly, they spent way too much money on what is ultimately an extremely niche movie. They shouldn't have made it this expensive. They should have definitely dropped the budget down on that quite a bit. But also, I think they just did some weird things with the movie. There's a lot of problems with the movie, with Black Adam's portrayal in general. The way they just made the character, it's nothing like what the character actually is. It honestly seems like The Rock just wanted to be Superman, but since he can't be Superman because Harvey Keitel's Superman, he just picked like the next closest thing. I don't really know what he was thinking here, but this is a bad idea, and I get that they went with it because The Rock was championing it, and like The Rock has very successful movies, whether you like them or not. He has very successful movies, so I can see why they went along with it, but they should not have spent this much money on this movie. Maybe half this budget, I think, would have been reasonable, but to spend this much money on the movie on a very niche character, and then the big conflict you give him is the JSA, which, like, they might be even more niche than Black Adam is. Like, it was a bad idea. I think this was a very bad idea. I did not think this was going to do well. This had to be, like, an out-of-left-field hit for it to really be successful, and I think it did respectably well for what it is, but I think they just spent way too much money on it. It was never going to make close to $1 billion. It just wasn't. And it's not a big enough character, and there's no faith in the DCEU to really drive that. Like, at least with Guardians, where when they first came out with the movie, no one knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. Even comic book fans weren't, like, super into the Guardians of the Galaxy. They weren't a big deal. At least not movie big deal. Like, it was cool, but, like, no one really cared. They were, like, a step below Iron Man. Like, Iron Man was already not, like, a huge character when his movie came out. The Guardians of the Galaxy were, like, a step below that in terms of how popular they were before their movie came out. So that was a risk being taken, but at the same time, the MCU had built up a reputation of good movies. So when they put out a movie like that, and it was a risky property, but at the very least they had the MCU backing it, which was already relatively successful. They had James Gunn doing the directing, and he was already successful with stuff like Scooby-Doo, and he did some movies with Trauma that were pretty good. So between those two or three things, there was something there where people had confidence that it might still be a good movie, even if we didn't know who the characters were. In this case, no one gives a fuck about the DCEU. The DCEU might as well just be gone. Like, no one cares. James Gunn should just reboot the whole thing. Keep a couple cast members, but just wipe the slate clean and start over, because with the exception of a few cast members, it's terrible. So you didn't have that backing it. No one knows who these characters are. Like, the only thing backing this movie was The Rock. The Rock saying he wanted to do this. That's what really backed this movie. And to be fair, he brought it to making, $500 million or something along those lines. That's really good for him, but they spent so much on the movie that it was never going to be able to make any money. Maybe with merchandising and stuff, it'll end up, working out for them, and they'll still figure something out with it, but this sounds like it was a failed attempt from the beginning. This sounds like it was always going to go badly. And next up, we have Alito Angel possibly getting a sequel, finally. This movie really deserves a sequel. It was a fantastic movie. But here we have John Landau says they've been talking with Robert Rodriguez about doing an Alito Angel sequel. Hopefully that comes to fruition. And I agree. Hopefully it does happen. Alita was a fantastic movie. I don't think it did, fantastically well, but I think it did well enough to warrant a sequel. It has been quite a while now, but I think if they made a sequel, it would do just as well, if not better. I think word of mouth on this movie has really helped it, and it's garnered quite a bit of a fan base at this point. Just overall a fantastic movie. And anime being done into movies usually doesn't, live action, doesn't usually work out that well. This might be the best one I think I've seen so far, at least that it comes to mind. A lot of times when anime is made into live action, we get garbage like the Death Note or Dragon Ball movie. This one at least was really, really good. So hopefully it gets a sequel. It more than deserves the sequel. And lastly, we have this 7-pixel image of the Ultimate Rares supposedly coming in OTS 21. Now, we do know that OTS 21 will feature Ultimate Rares based on the Casatrila, never going to be able to pronounce that right, Sprite, and Tier Element. And to be honest, this leak is like basically exactly what pretty much anyone who knows the decks would have assumed it would be. There's a couple of other options that I can think of for Sprite, but this is definitely the most obvious one. And then Tier Element, I think this is the obvious one. I don't know enough about the other deck to really say, but we have Casatrila, Unicorn. Again, I don't know enough about this deck to really have an opinion on that one, but sure. We have Tier Element, Rhinoheart. I think that was the obvious choice. I think one of the extra deck monsters is also really good, but this is probably the obvious choice for it. I can't really think of another one I'd want, although I think this is already a pretty high rarity card, so maybe bringing up one of the commons or the supers to like an ultimate rare and bringing up the commons to super rares in the set would have been more interesting, because I think this was released as a secret, but it might have been ultra. Regardless, this is fine. This is probably the best card in the deck, so sure. And then we got Sprite Elf. This is by far the best card in the Sprite deck. The only thing with this is that it's more generic, and that's kind of good because I like when more generic cards are the ultimate rares, because then you can get the ultimate rare and you can use it in more decks, and, you know, shiny cardboard's fun, so, you know, the more decks I can play it in, the better. However, this is also the one that's most likely to get banned, in my opinion. If any Sprite card will ever get hit, I'm like 90% sure it's going to be either this or the Xyz, but I think the Xyz is way less useful. This is pretty generic, so I feel like this will probably end up getting hit at some point, which makes me a little less happy about it getting an ultimate rare, because I don't want to buy an ultimate rare and then I can't play it anymore, because then it's shiny cardboard I can't have fun with, and what good is that? But overall, I think this is a fine set for what we already know about OTS 21. If this is the case, this is fine. It's about what was expected. I kind of would have preferred to get a different ultimate rare and just get like 1 or 2 of these and then get the third one in another OTS pack, because I feel like these are very specific ultimate rares. But at the same time, if the super rares are good, I think it'll be fine, because these are 3 really cool decks. And while, again, I don't know enough about the Casatrila deck, I don't really care that much about that one, the other 2 are really, really cool, so I'm fine with this. And that's all the news for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that nonsense down below, I guess. Let me know what you think of the Toejam and Earl movie. Do you think it's going to be good? Is it going to be animated? Should it be live action? Can we get a live action Toejam and Earl movie? And how disgusting would that be? Let me know in the comments down below. And we'll be back tomorrow with more nerd news.